Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fish Flip podcast. This is Richard and Jenny, and this week's podcast will be focusing on something that's familiar with everybody. I'm sure that watches this podcast. It is about breakfasts, and recently we had an idea of doing breakfasts from around the world as a mini series. Now, because everybody eats breakfast, everybody has a different style and choice of what they like to eat in the morning. And it varies greatly around the world depending on what's available to them. So we figured this might be an interesting deep dive that we can do. And I figured I'd start us off by doing continents. I've chosen the African continent. So today, our podcast will be about African breakfasts.
Okay,
all right?
Which I know nothing about.
I wouldn't say that for sure. Because, you know what? I'm going to follow up with this very first one right now. Did you know in Kenya, their preferred breakfast is chai and mandazi?
Oh, yeah. I didn't actually know that Mandazi was from Kenya specifically. I made those when I was taking a baking course at George Brown, and what it is it's like, I would say it's similar to an old-fashioned sour cream donut, but different and kind of better because it's made with coconut.
Yeah, in a fried dough sense, right?
Yeah, but the texture is the same, and it's glazed and just...
Yeah,
delicious.
Something like that is delicious.
With chai? That's the best breakfast ever.
A bit of tea. I mean, is there any European influence in that? I feel like that's kind of... is it a little European?
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like it's interesting. But, if we're breaking past of, your typical breakfast cereals that are just, sugary little bits. This is still, it's a little higher grade, I would say, just because it's none of that processed sugar, really. A donut is kind of it's rather like a very homemade thing, and it's not largely mass produced, right? Something like this. So a mandazi, they also call it a Swahili coconut donut. So kind of like what you're saying, it is made with coconut milk and flakes. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they add cardamom in it as well.
Yeah, that's delicious.
Yeah, maybe that's for the bit of a flavor.
That would go with the chai too. Cardamom is really warming as well.
I don't know much about cardamom, I have to say. I know that you guys have cooked with the flower pods in the curries.
With the pods, and you can also grind it up. At the bakery where I work, we'll grind up cardamom and put it into muffins and cakes and things like that.
Yeah, so it's like a floral thing then? Or what would you say cardamom contributes?
I would say that cardamom is like cousins with cinnamon. It's got equal warming properties, but it's a totally different flavor. However, in things like cinnamon buns, you can replace the cinnamon with cardamom and it will be equally delicious or more delicious.
That's cool. Okay. Well, so I figured I'd start off with one that you know right away. Well, let's move on. Our next location is Mozambique, which is in Southeast Africa. Now, their preferred breakfast is tea or coffee, typically with sandwiches that have ovals, they call it, which is eggs, fresh paise, which is fish, and pequeno almoço. So that is a form of sweet cake. And when I looked it up online, it showed me a lot of styles of ring cake.
Wow.
So I don't know, you know much about those kind of
I don't know about that.
From all your baking adventures, no? Yeah, so apparently it's Portuguese. The ring cake style that they eat with. So it's a nice sweet piece to add in with the sandwiches that you're eating as well. So perhaps a little bit of a sweet contribution to a savory sandwich, right? Now our next location is Nigeria, and this is Central West Africa. Something that they eat for breakfast is called akara, which is like peeled black eye beans, and it's spiced and lumped together and fried in a nugget, which is served with what they call it papogi, which is kind of like a corn custard. Yeah, so I don't know, like nice and hot, I suppose, in the morning.
Yeah,
if it's fried up for breakfast.
Yeah, that sounds good. It sounds similar to a falafel.
Is it? Yeah.
Mashed bean ball fried, yeah.
I wonder if it's spiced like it, as well. Well, which is kind of cool, though. Now, after Nigeria, we have Ghana. This is Central West Africa. So I found a few more things for Ghana. One of which is ampesi, which is consisting of cassava, cocoa yam, which apparently is like taro. And then there's yam and plantain.
Very starchy.
So yeah, it seems to be fairly starchy with everything that's added in there. And then it's boiled and then added together with fish and onion.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it is a savory dish, it seems. That's something that I wouldn't mind. It feels like it would power you up very well for a morning.
Yeah, that sounds like a power breakfast.
Maybe a little more than cereal, I guess.
Yeah.
Feels
Even
to me.
Chai and Mandazi sounds more like something I would personally have as an afternoon pick-me-up. Something around 3 p.m. But this is like a breakfast.
They could eat it for breakfast, or they could switch it to an afternoon snack, right? Like a tea time thing.
To me, this sounds more like breakfast, having a lot of carbs. Heavy on the carbs for breakfast.
This feels like a breakfast item.
Fish, savory.
Yeah, and another one of Ghana's breakfast specials is called Kenki, which is ground cornmeal soaked in water. It is fermented, then rolled into a ball, boiled in plantain leaves, and served with a meat stew or fish. So again, cornmeal would be pretty filling as well. Relatively starchy, right? Kind of like the the taro and yam. Yeah, so it's maybe a different style of it, but they use cornmeal instead of the other items that we talked about earlier. And then we also have wakai, which is on a base of bean and rice. You add in plantain, what's called atalia, which is kind of like apparently it looks like spaghetti when I looked it up. And it's shito, which is a black pepper sauce, is added to it. There's boiled eggs, avocados, and tomato soup base that typically contains meat. And they also add in gari foto, which is mashed sauce made with finely grated cassava. I've hardly ever really eaten cassava. Yeah. I feel like these breakfast varieties really have a lot of ways with this. This I think it's a root vegetable, right? The cassava?
I think so, but I don't know 100% sure.
Yeah. Maybe it's like some kind of subcategory of a root vegetable.
We could look it up.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Why not?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like a root vegetable. It's just a long tuberous.
It looks like
vegetable.
I don't know what to call it.
Oh, it is poisonous in its raw form. It has to be cooked.
What do you call gobo in English?
Gobo? How do you say?
Just type in GOBOU. Oh yeah, root. And then space root. Burdock root. That's what it's called in English. It
burdock root?
Burdock root. The cassava.
Oh, burdock root is very long too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that's from.
Burdock
typically.
Root is
in terms of where around the world? Japan.
In Japan, we eat it. I ate it a lot while I was there. It's like you can peel it and then chop it, add it to stir fries. It's really nice, really crunchy, and super healthy.
I would imagine this would be crunchy if it's eaten raw, but because, as what I'm seeing here, apparently it's poisonous. When it's dug out of the ground. Definitely cook it, guys. Our next one is South Africa is our next one. So one of their items is putu pap, which is a cornmeal porridge that's similar to grits. Your typical porridge, I believe. I didn't see too much about this. But yeah, so like a basic cornmeal porridge. And then you also have a mealie, which is can be regular bread or cornbread. The difference is that mealie breads are made through steaming.
Oh yeah.
So it's a steam bread, and they usually just like put it into like a big vat of water, and then they use a pot in the middle where the bread is filled in, and kind of like just bring the water up to the sides. Yeah, so submersion water, it's kind of like a soft bread, somewhere between a cornbread and like a really dense, corn pudding and a dense bread, somewhere like that, depending on how soft you like it or how hard you prefer. So the mealie bread is also another item for South Africa. And also another breakfast item that they eat is biscuit.
What's that?
Biscuit. Basically it's like a really hard bread. Like what are those like bread biscuits that you eat, like small sliced bread?
Rusks, yeah.
Is that what you call them?
Rusks,
I looked it up, and it said the alternate name I saw was rusk. So it's a twice baked bread or a very hard biscuit, basically, right? So that's another one of their breakfast items in South Africa. Now we move on to Ethiopia. In the northeast, we have fatira, which is a traditional street food eaten as breakfast there. It consists of a large crispy wheat flour pancake, and it typically would have scrambled eggs on it and honey.
Yeah.
One or the other, or both, depending on how people like it. And another item is genfo, which is porridge from dry roasted barley flour. I've had barley porridge before. I don't think I've ever even heard of it.
Porridge? I'll have to make you something with barley.
Yeah, so it's supposedly eaten, in a bowl, but usually carved out with a ring in the center, like a hole in the center. They use what's called a finjal, which is basically an Ethiopian coffee cup.
Okay.
I mean, maybe this is more of like a customs in terms of the eating as it is to like a special like spice that they use, right? So it's an interesting find that I saw. They also eat fit in Ethiopia. So you can use either there's two styles of flatbreads. You can use either injera flatbread or unleavened kicha bread. And fit is made with clarified spice butter and Berber spices. It's typically eaten with yogurt, and it's an optional meat and chili peppers. Which for me probably is not optional. I probably would add that every time. Yeah, so another thing I found with fit is that it can also be eaten as like torn up version, where the bread is torn and I think they fry it up a little bit and it's tossed together in a bowl.
Nice.
And you eat it with a spoon that way. So yeah, depending on your preference, I guess. Yeah, and then we move on to Egypt in the northeast Africa. They have what's called an ega. So it's a very heavy omelet that actually may have more of the filling than the egg itself.
Oh, yeah.
So it's probably a morning excuse to toss together some like nicely spiced meats or chicken. They add a lot of stuff in there. So there is lamb as well, possibly, if you want to add that in. There is also veggies like aubergines, leeks, spinach, and courgettes. Some of these I haven't even heard of.
You know them: aubergine, eggplant, courgette, zucchini.
These are fancy names.
British English, I believe.
Oh my, okay. There's your influence, your culinary influence, huh? And in Egypt, they also have faux madams. So it's an ancient dish that is pre-Ottoman and pre-Islamic. It is made by slowly simmering fava beans, and it's drizzled with lemon juice, olive oil, garlic, and certain spices like parsley and peppers.
Wow.
That sounds pretty tasty,
beans.
I would say.
What's for breakfast.
Yeah, not like your canned beans here.
No, not like Heinz baked beans.
No,
that's on a different
not like your
continent.
molasses and pork.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Egypt. And now we move on to Morocco in the northwest, I would say. They have what's called basara. It's made with pureed beans. It's either split peas or fava beans that you can use. It's kind of created to a consistency as a soup or porridge texture. And you season it much like you would season faux madames. They use olive oil, lemon juice, and garlic here as well. But it's also served with paprika and cumin on the side. So typically you eat this with crusty bread is what I saw. So probably like a harder style of bread, and like your biscuit or rusk. Yeah, rusk. Yeah. And then we move on to I think the last one that I have here in the Ivory Coast. So that's west to like northwest, kind of like Africa. They have what's called atieke, which is couscous, consisting of fermented and ground cassava roots. There's cassava again. And you add in sliced onions, tomatoes, grilled chicken, or fried fish. Yeah, so like a lot of these countries where they have fish, it's kind of like very regional, of course. So places like Mozambique, they have like sandwiches with fish in them, which makes sense because, you know, it's fresh access fish and it's right off the coast, easy, right? I honestly would want to have something like that for breakfast. I think it's fantastic to eat like fresh fish. Yeah. Like fish as a breakfast item. Oh, that makes my day.
Yeah, it's already a good start.
Maybe do that and give me some kind of starch, like potato starch or something, like, because that really fills you up, but the fish kind of gives you, you know, the other side of it. Yeah. And one thing that I kind of saw as a pretty common reoccurrence with all of these or with most of these countries is different names, but they're all kind of surround a style of donut. So like just to name a couple for you, Indonesia, they have the donut, but they call it a bambaluni, which is, you know, it's like a typical thick ring donut, but their donuts are huge. The way that I've seen them make it now. Yeah. From what I've researched. Bambalunis, yeah. Massive rings. And then there's Morocco. They call it a sfenge, or I don't know how you pronounce that. Fenge. It's a thick ring. Instead of big, it's just very thick, I believe. And in Nigeria, they have puff puff or chin chins. So it's honestly kind of like, it reminds me of what you get in if you live in Canada, live in Ontario, around Toronto, you go to Wonderland, Canada's Wonderland, you have those little fried donut balls, chin chins and puff puffs.
Oh, they
kind of look like them.
Timbits?
Yeah, kind of like Timbits, kind of. But from another source that I read, when they described the donut in Nigeria, they called it a bayonet. So that could very well be what a bayonet is, basically. It's just, these are basically different names for donuts, but they all have their own regional, you know, distinction for them. So South Africa has one. It's called a Coek sister. Either way, when I looked it up, I saw a really cool donut style. It's kind of like a twisted braid fashion of a donut.
I can imagine that, yeah.
Yeah, they're having a lot of fun with their donuts over there. But yeah, so that's just to name a few for you there. I guess no matter where you are in the world, eating sweets for breakfast is always always an option. And people would always enjoy some kind of a sweet breakfast bite. I suppose.
Yeah, we'll have to see though, because this is just our first continent that we're exploring.
Yeah, let's see what other continents feel like in the upcoming podcasts. You know.
Yeah, we'll see if we can make any connections between who eats sweets for breakfast and who doesn't.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been another Fish Flip podcast with Richard and Jenny.
Yep.
We will see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.